Most motorcycles aren't limited by their engines. They're limited by factory decisions. Those decisions favor regulations and longevity over real performance. If your bike has ever felt capable but restrained, there's a reason. In this video, you'll learn 15 proven ways riders unlock better response and usable power without tearing into the engine. And before we're done, you'll see how one simple software change, no wrenching involved, can completely transform how your bike pulls. Number 15, removing factory intake restrictions. Most riders don't realize this, but your motorcycle left the factory breathing through a choke collar, not because the engineers were clueless, because they were forced to be careful. Noise laws, emissions testing, warranty math. All of it adds up to one result, an intake system designed to quiet the bike down, not let it perform. Inside that airbox is a maze. Long snorkels, tight turns, chambers whose only purpose is killing sound. Every bend slows airflow, every restriction limits oxygen, and less oxygen means the engine never reaches the output it was mechanically built for. Here's the part that sparks arguments online. Improving airflow works, not magically, not dramatically, but measurably. A freer intake path gives the engine cleaner air, quicker response, and stronger pull through the middle of the rev range. You feel it most when rolling on the throttle, not when chasing top speed. But this is where riders get burned. The fuel mapping was written for that restriction. Remove it carelessly, and the bike can stumble, surge, or run lean. The people who swear by intake mods always do one thing differently. They match airflow with proper tuning. Unlocking the factory limiter immediately frees the bike to breathe harder and rev stronger. But that new power reveals the next roadblock: airflow. And this is where we move forward, because once you've tasted that extra speed, you'll want every combustion cycle to hit even harder. That momentum leads us straight into intake optimization. Number 14, optimizing exhaust flow beyond stock limitations. Most riders obsess over what goes into the engine and forget what has to get out. That's a mistake. An engine is an air pump, and the exhaust is half the equation. From the factory, that system is deliberately strangled. Quiet pipes, heavy baffles, catalysts sized for compliance, not performance. The result is back pressure that slows the engine's ability to clear spent gases and make room for the next combustion cycle. When exhaust flow is cleaned up, the change isn't subtle. Throttle response tightens. Acceleration feels less delayed. The motor spins up with less effort, especially in the mid-range where street bikes live most of their lives. This isn't about noise or showing off. It's about efficiency. If this is making you rethink how your own bike feels in the mid-range, drop a comment and say what you ride. Those real-world setups help guide future breakdowns. But here's where people get it wrong. Bolting parts without recalibrating, fueling can cause lean running and uneven power. The gains only show up when airflow and mapping agree. Do it properly and the bike stops feeling held back. A better breathing engine feels alive, sharper, and more eager. However, this improvement exposes another restriction. The stock fuel map can't fully match that new airflow. So naturally, the next trick steps into tuning, because better air demands smarter fuel, which brings us to ECU refinement. Number 13, ECU remapping. This is the one riders whisper about because it doesn't bolt on and it doesn't show. It lives inside the motorcycle's brain. Every modern bike runs on software written to satisfy emissions labs, warranty lawyers, and riders who forget oil changes. Performance is intentionally buried under layers of caution. The electronic control unit decides how much fuel flows, when the spark fires, how sharply the throttle responds, and where power gets trimmed. From the factory, those decisions are conservative by necessity. The engine is capable of more, but the software never lets it try. A proper remap rewrites those priorities. Fueling becomes precise instead of padded. Ignition timing stops playing defense. Throttle input finally feels proportional to your wrist. The result is smoother pull, stronger mid-range, and an engine that feels awake instead of restrained. This trick earns its forbidden status because it removes factory safety nets. Generic maps can hurt more than help, but a bike tuned to its intake, exhaust, and rider stops feeling filtered. If you're into understanding why your bike behaves the way it does, Give it a like, drop a hype, and subscribe. That small support helps this kind of practical, experience-based content reach riders who actually care about their machines. Once fuel delivery is corrected, throttle response becomes addictive. But here's the forward shift. More fuel and more air mean nothing if exhaust gases escape slowly. And so, the countdown pushes on toward freeing the exhaust path, a move that unlocks even more hidden horsepower. Number 12, reducing excess rotational weight. Here's a truth that shocks riders the first time they feel it. You can make a motorcycle accelerate harder, stop shorter, and turn sharper without touching the engine. No tuning, no horsepower, just removing weight that refuses to change direction. Manufacturers load bikes with heavy wheels, thick brake rotors, chunky sprockets, and overbuilt driveline parts. Not because it's ideal, but because mass smooths vibration, cuts cost, and keeps warranty claims quiet. The problem is that anything that spins fights acceleration and braking at the same time. Your engine isn't just pushing the bike forward, it's wrestling inertia every time the wheels rotate. Lightening rotating parts changes the bike's personality instantly. Throttle response sharpens, steering feels quicker, braking effort drops. The machine feels alert instead of reluctant. This is why racers chase rotating mass before chasing power. The physics always win. But there's a trade-off. Less mass means less forgiveness. Done carelessly, comfort and longevity suffer. Dropping rotational mass makes acceleration quicker and the bike more responsive everywhere. Yet this extra performance exposes a silent enemy: heat. That's why the countdown moves on to cooling, because real gains don't last if rising temperatures force the engine to protect itself. Number 11, improving cooling and heat management. If you think overheating only hurts reliability, you are missing a massive performance leak. Heat is power's silent enemy. The moment engine temperatures climb beyond their ideal window, the bike starts pulling, timing, softening response, and protecting itself. You may still hear the engine screaming, but it is no longer giving you everything it has. Modern motorcycles run hot by design. Lean factory fueling, compact packaging, and emissions hardware all stack heat right where you do not want it. When temperatures spike, efficiency drops. Combustion becomes unstable. Power fades, even though nothing appears broken. Quick check. Have you ever felt your bike lose its edge after a long ride or heavy traffic? Let me know in the comments. Heat shows up differently depending on the bike. This is where smarter cooling pays off. Better airflow through the radiator, improved fans, and cleaner oil temperatures keep the engine operating where it makes consistent power lap after lap, mile after mile. The gains are not flashy, but they are real and repeatable. Here is the part riders ignore. Any power mod that adds heat without managing it is self-defeating. Control temperature, and the engine stops fighting itself. Cool the motor properly, and suddenly throttle restrictions feel impossible to ignore. But even with heat under control, another bottleneck waits in the background: throttle response. And this pushes the list forward toward eliminating factory throttle delays, so the power you gained is delivered the instant you ask for it. Number 10, eliminating throttle restrictions and delays. You can add power all day long, but if the throttle hesitates, the bike will always feel slow. Throttle response is the conversation between your right hand and the engine, and on many motorcycles, that conversation is filtered, delayed, and softened on purpose. From the factory, throttle systems are tuned for compliance and approachability. Mechanical stops, lazy throttle cams, long cable ratios, and electronic smoothing all exist to make power delivery gentle and predictable. That keeps new riders safe and emissions regulators satisfied. But it also means the engine never responds as quickly as it could. Fixing this does not require chasing peak horsepower. A quicker throttle tube or corrected cable geometry removes dead travel so the engine reacts the instant you twist. On electronically controlled throttles, the delay is often software, not hardware. The computer waits, second guesses, then responds. Remove that hesitation and everything changes. Acceleration feels immediate. Corner exits sharpen. The bike finally mirrors your intent instead of questioning it. Here is the trap most riders miss. Response is performance. And once the throttle stops lying to you, drivetrain losses become impossible to ignore. Yet even perfect response can be held back if the drivetrain wastes energy through drag or crooked alignment. And that awareness leads us to the next performance unlock: correct chain tension and alignment, which reclaim horsepower without touching the engine. Number 9. Correct chain tension and drivetrain alignment. This one never makes headlines, yet it quietly decides how much of your engine's effort actually reaches the pavement. Your chain and sprockets are the final gatekeepers of power, and when they are even slightly off, performance leaks away before the rear tire ever turns. A chain that is too tight creates drag and overloads bearings. One that is too loose introduces lash, hesitation, and sloppy acceleration. Add misalignment into the mix, and the chain is forced to scrub sideways across the sprockets, wasting energy as heat and friction. You feel it as rough throttle pickup, inconsistent drive, and a bike that never feels settled. Set correctly, everything changes. Power delivery smooths out. Acceleration becomes more predictable. The bike feels calmer, quicker, and easier to ride at the limit. Nothing was added, nothing was upgraded. Losses were simply removed. Most riders call this maintenance. In reality, it is optimization. Reducing rotational losses frees power and sharpens response, and the bike immediately feels quicker. However, that improvement exposes the next limitation: how well the chassis manages that energy, which is exactly why the next step focuses on suspension, because power without control never lasts. Number 8. Optimizing tire pressure and compound selection. This is one of the most powerful performance changes you can make without touching the engine. Your tires are the only parts of the motorcycle that actually touch the road, yet most riders treat pressure and compound like an afterthought. From the factory, tire pressures are set as a compromise. They account for passenger loads, luggage, heat buildup, and worst-case scenarios. They are safe but rarely ideal. Too much pressure reduces the contact patch and grip. Too little increases drag, heat, and instability. Either way, power is being wasted before it ever turns into forward motion. Compound choice matters just as much. Harder rubber lasts longer but gives up traction. Softer rubber grips better, warms faster, and communicates more clearly, especially when cornering hard or accelerating out of turns. The right compound lets you use more of the performance you already have. Out of curiosity, when was the last time you checked your tire pressures cold? Not just trusted the sticker. A quick comment helps other riders compare notes. Dial both in correctly, and the bike feels lighter, more planted, and easier to control. Once the suspension is working properly, everything else starts happening faster. The bike stays planted, feedback improves, and confidence rises. And that is where the next question appears. If you are carrying more speed, how efficiently can you bring it back down? This is where braking performance enters the conversation. Number 7. Proper suspension set up for rider weight and use. This is where many motorcycles quietly give up performance without the rider ever realizing it. Suspension is not just about comfort. It dictates traction, stability, braking confidence, and how effectively power reaches the pavement. When it is wrong, even a powerful bike feels vague and unsettled. From the factory, suspension settings are a compromise. They are built for an average rider, average weight, and average riding style. If you are heavier, lighter, more aggressive, or ride different roads, the suspension is no longer working for you. Incorrect sag makes the bike ride too high or collapse too easily. Poor rebound control turns bumps into oscillations. Compression set wrong robs grip mid-corner. Dial it in correctly, and the transformation is immediate. The bike holds a line. Braking becomes calmer. Acceleration feels more controlled because the tire stays planted instead of skipping. Here is the truth most riders miss. Suspension setup can unlock more usable performance than many engine mods. With the right tires and pressures, grip finally becomes predictable. Better brakes change how late and how hard you can slow the bike. But here's the catch. Braking power means nothing without grip, which leads directly to the next bottleneck, the tires, because they decide how much braking force actually reaches the road. Number 6. Upgrading brake feel and feedback. Brakes are not just about stopping power. They define confidence, timing, and how late you can push before rolling off. When brake feel is vague, the rider hesitates. That hesitation costs more speed than most engine upgrades ever recover. From the factory, brake systems are built to be quiet, inexpensive, and forgiving. Rubber lines expand under pressure, old fluid absorbs heat, stock pads prioritize longevity over bite. The result is a soft lever and inconsistent response, especially when riding hard or downhill. If you have ever backed off simply because the lever did not feel trustworthy, you are not alone. Drop a quick comment if brake feel has ever limited how hard you ride. Tighten that system up and everything sharpens. Braided lines reduce flex. Fresh fluid resists fade. Better pads deliver predictable bite without surprise. Suddenly, braking becomes precise instead of cautious. You carry speed deeper, release sooner, and stay composed when traction is limited. Here is the hidden truth. Better brakes make the entire bike faster, even on straights. But even then, another limitation surfaces. Traction is useless if the rider cannot apply input smoothly. That is why the next trick shifts from the bike itself to the connection between rider and machine. Number 5, reducing mechanical friction through maintenance. This is the least glamorous trick on the list and one of the most powerful. Friction is the invisible tax on performance. Every dry cable, neglected bearing, and contaminated fluid steals energy before it ever reaches the rear wheel. Motorcycles leave the factory properly assembled, not perfectly optimized. Over time, dirt works its way into pivots. Lubricants break down, cables drag, wheel bearings lose their smoothness. None of this feels dramatic on its own, but together it dulls throttle response, softens shifting, and makes the bike feel heavier than it should. Bring those systems back to health and the change is immediate. Controls move freely. The drivetrain spins easier. Acceleration feels cleaner because less effort is being wasted fighting resistance. You did not add power. You stopped losing it. This is why experienced riders obsess over basics. A well-maintained motorcycle always feels faster than a neglected one with upgrades. Improving ergonomics sharpens control and reduces fatigue. Still, control alone does not define how the bike accelerates. Which brings us to the next hidden factor, how the engine power is actually delivered through the gears long before it reaches the wheel. Number 4, optimizing gear ratios for real-world riding. This one flies under the radar because it does not look like a performance mod. No flash, no noise, just teeth and math. And yet, changing gearing can completely rewrite how your bike feels on the street. From the factory, motorcycles are geared for emissions tests, highway cruising, and broad appeal. That usually means tall gearing, quiet, efficient, and dull. When the ratios are stretched, the engine spends most of its life below the sweet spot, lugging instead of pulling. A simple sprocket change flips the script. Dropping a tooth up front or adding a few out back shortens the gearing, letting the engine reach usable torque sooner. Roll on acceleration improves. Passing requires less planning. The bike feels eager instead of restrained. You did not add power. You made the existing power easier to access. This trick is considered forbidden because it sacrifices textbook fuel, economy, and theoretical top speed. But in real riding, it delivers control, responsiveness, and confidence where it actually matters. And this is where the list tightens. We are into the top 3 tricks now, the changes manufacturers rely on most to keep bikes predictable. Which of these do you think has the biggest impact on real-world performance? Drop a comment below. I read everyone, and it is always interesting to see what riders notice first. Number 3, improving rider ergonomics and control inputs. This is where most riders lose performance without realizing it. Not at the engine, not at the wheels, at the contact points. If your body is fighting the bike, you are bleeding control, confidence, and endurance every mile. From the factory, motorcycles are set up for an imaginary average rider. Average height, average weight, average posture. The problem is, nobody rides that way. Poor bar reach loads your wrists. Bad lever angles kill feel. A cramped foot position steals leverage and tires you out early. You are tense, reacting late, and working harder than you should. Dial the fit in and the bike changes instantly. Throttle inputs become smoother. Braking gets more precise. Cornering feels natural instead of forced. You stay relaxed longer, which means better decisions at speed. This trick gets ignored because it does not look aggressive. No dyno chart, no noise. But racers obsess over ergonomics for a reason. Control is performance. However, performance still is not fixed. It changes with conditions. Because power and grip do not exist in a vacuum. Weather, road temperature, and surface grip constantly alter how much force the bike can safely put down, which naturally leads to the next factor: temperature, surface, and environment, all of which reshape how your bike behaves in real time. Number 2, eliminating unnecessary electronic interventions. Modern motorcycles are packed with digital safety nets, and while they serve a clear purpose, many of them interfere long before you actually need help. Traction control, wheelie control, torque limiters, soft power modes, all fully layered on top to protect tires, drivetrains, insurance statistics, and inexperienced riders. Here is the issue. These systems do not wait until things go wrong. They step in early. The moment the computer senses slip, pitch, or rapid throttle input, it trims power, closes throttle plates, or retards ignition. The engine is capable of more, but the software refuses to allow it. On the street, this often translates into muted exits, delayed acceleration, and an engine that feels restrained even when conditions are perfect. Riders mistake this for a lack of power, when it is actually a lack of permission. Reducing or disabling unnecessary interventions where appropriate and safely restores direct control. The bike responds to your inputs, not a risk algorithm. Once electronics stop interrupting, the final truth becomes clear. The real limitation has always been understanding the compromises built into the machine. But once the electronics step out of the way, a deeper truth becomes impossible to ignore. Every limitation you have removed so far was deliberately placed there by the manufacturer. And that realization pushes us toward the final, most forbidden insight: learning how and why those factory boundaries exist in the first place, so you can work around them with purpose instead of guesswork. Number 1, understanding and working around manufacturer constraints. This is the trick that makes every other one on this list make sense. Manufacturers do not build motorcycles for maximum performance. They build them to survive emissions, testing, meet noise limits, satisfy lawyers, hit price targets, and protect warranty claims. What you buy is not the engine's true capability. It is a carefully negotiated compromise. Power limits, soft throttle maps, conservative ignition timing, restricted gearing, heat-heavy tuning, and electronic safety margins all exist for reasons that have nothing to do with how you actually ride. None of these limits mean the machine cannot do more. They mean it is not allowed to. Riders who never question those constraints waste money chasing parts that fight the software instead of working with it. Riders who understand the compromises choose smarter upgrades, tune around limitations, and unlock performance without sacrificing reliability. This is the real forbidden trick. Stop asking the factory for permission. Once you see the constraints clearly, every boost becomes intentional, not accidental. And if this breakdown helped you understand your bike's true potential, do not stop here. Click on the next video waiting for you on screen. And to help this channel grow, make sure to hit that like button, drop a hype comment below, and subscribe for more real performance knowledge.